Well, this is a video for people who may be new to Apex or feel they're just kind of stuck at a certain skill level and they can't figure out how to get past that like plateau that they may be stuck in and feel like they can't improve. To give myself a little credibility so you don't think I'm just some random trying to give tips, I was previously a pro player in Apex, competing in almost every pro league in the game. And every season that I actually tried to play rank, I hit Masters or Predator. After playing the game for over 7,000 hours, I feel like I have some advice I could give to people that would actually make them better at the game. So, here is 5 tips that I think will actually help you get better at Apex. So my first reason for people not improving is I think they avoid fights too much. In a game like Apex and just battle royales in general, you have a lot of downtime. What I mean by that is time where you're not actively improving. So anytime you're in the lobby waiting to get into queue for your next game, or time you're just spending looting more than you need to be. This is truly one of the best ways to improve in the game, is to fight as much as possible, is because at the end of the day, fighting improves your aim, your game sense, positioning, situational awareness, like literally everything that makes a person good in a game like this is improved by fighting a lot. And the first thing you could do easily to already correct this mistake is to hot drop. So land where you see most of the lobby landing. I'm not saying every game, if you just want some calm games that you have to drop where the entire server is, you're fine to go somewhere else and, just get a peaceful game here and there. But one of the reasons why I think I personally improved so fast at Apex is because I constantly took fights even when I knew I was at a disadvantage. I always land where majority of the players land in the lobby, and it really made me learn how to have to work with bad loot and then having to fight a whole bunch of people at the same time with my bad loot. So my second reason is taking accountability for when you mess up, but then also not being harsh on your teammates if you feel like they were the problem. This one may seem kind of straightforward, but I feel like a lot of people actually have trouble applying this. But it's important to remember that there is only one thing you truly have control over in any game, and it's your own actions. You can't control what your teammates do. So even if you feel your teammates messed up and they might have cost you the game, there is always something else that you could have done differently yourself. So say I solo queued ranked and I got 2 people on my team who don't like fighting at all and they just want to loot the entire game. Honestly, I feel like it's my job to just have to adapt to their playstyle. If I'm playing really aggressive and die and we end up losing the game because of that, then that's on me, Like, I might be annoyed, but at the end of the day, you still have to be accountable for your own actions. I promise you, there has not been a single scenario in my 7,000 hours where I feel like I did everything completely right and it was always my teammate's fault. That'll just never happen. If you won't admit you made a mistake, then you're saying you did everything right and there was nothing to learn from that situation. And then at that point, you are also saying that there was nothing to improve upon. And that's just not a good mindset to have. You always have room for improvement. So no matter what happens, whether you think it's the teammate's fault or not, try to take accountability for what at least you could have done differently. Now my third reasoning is you never solo queue. Now this one might be a little controversial, especially when Apex is kind of at its core a team-based game. But I think if you never really spend any time playing with people outside of a pre-made party, I think you'll start to develop a habit of relying on your teammates way too much. Now of course, me saying this, if you're someone who doesn't like solo queuing at all, you find it like miserable, and you only like playing with people then that's completely fine. But if you genuinely want to improve at the game, this is my opinion on why solo queuing actually makes you better. What I see wrong with always playing with pre-made teammates is that you kind of get used to how they play and you know what they're going to do, and you have way better odds of getting bailed out of bad situations that you might get into. I would say about 95% of my playtime in Apex when it comes to pubs and ranked has been completely solo queued. And I would say you're at a disadvantage pretty much every situation you get into, implying that you're facing people who are stacked together. But in my eyes, that's actually a good thing. I'm a big believer that the more disadvantaged you are, the quicker you will learn. I knew that pretty much every fight I would get into, it would never be in my favor. So I kind of feel like mentally, it really made me speedrun learning positioning, off angles, how to split up a team to give you 1v1s. And really just kind of how to value my life a lot. I just believe solo queuing will make you really comfortable being in bad situations. So now in the few times that I do actually play with pre-made squads, like in ranked, I feel confident that even if my teammates die, I've been in so many situations where I'm at a disadvantage to begin with that I feel confident that I could 1v3. It's all about trying to make yourself used to being in a bad situation so then when that time comes, you're prepared for it. I think being in a pre-made party lets you get away with things that you normally wouldn't be able to get away with, and that can form bad habits. But just one last time, it's good to put yourself at a disadvantage because I think that's the best scenario to learn from. Now, the fourth reason would be positioning. And this is the one reason that I would say probably applies to the majority of all of Apex player base. Of course, we all know in a first-person shooter game, aim is pretty important. You can't really win fights if you don't shoot people. But even if your aim isn't the greatest, having good positioning can actually make up for having what I would consider just average aim. There is almost never a scenario in Apex where you should be fighting someone while you're in the open. It is really important that you always only shoot when you have cover. There's so many times where I catch people out in the open rotating and I start shooting at them. And then instead of them running to cover so they can fight back, they'll just stop where they are in the open and start trying to shoot back at me. That is really not a good thing to do at all, yet I see so many people do it. So I think this is something that, if this applies to you, really try to take my advice on this. Not only is that obviously just not a good scenario to be in where you're in the open and you're fighting someone who isn't and they have cover, you have to think about if you get downed, are your teammates going to get you if you're in the open? Pretty much guaranteed to get your knockdown shield broke and then you die. I think that's another important factor to kind of keep in the back of your mind when you're playing somewhere and you're fighting. Kind of think to yourself, like, if I get knocked down here, do I have a good chance of getting revived? And is it going to be hard for the people I'm fighting to turn me into a death box? Another big factor in positioning would be to stop wide swinging or over peeking, whichever you want to call it. So say I'm playing behind a fence and I'm shooting someone. There is no reason to ever really step out of the cover for more than like 2 feet. Because if you're playing close to your cover and you're not wide swinging, it is almost impossible for you to ever get one clipped. When you wide swing out of cover, you just give yourself more opportunity to get one clipped or shot by more people. It's really important that you know the angles that you have and then the angles that everyone around you who's trying to kill you has. When you wide swing, you're just giving your enemies an opportunity to make an opening for themselves. The only time I would ever say it is okay to actually wide swing is if you get an opening yourself and you want to capitalize off of it. But even then, you know, you just have to be mindful of them just maybe randomly swinging out and start shooting you. It's just really important that you're always playing close enough to cover where if anything goes bad, you can get behind it to avoid dying. My fifth and final reason would be being able to recognize your mistakes, but actually applying a fix to it at the same time. I think a lot of people, when they die, they know what they did wrong, but a lot of people also struggle to actually apply a fix to that. If you're someone who watches Apex on Twitch, which I also stream Apex on Twitch, link in description, and you've ever gone into someone's stream and you've asked, how do I get better at the game? And they tell you just play it a lot. To an extent, I agree that just playing a lot will help you get better. You also have to have the mindset of you're going in to improve. Just playing the game a lot and dying a lot doesn't really fix any problems. I think some good ways you can start recognizing your mistakes and then actually trying to apply fixes would be to record if you have the capability of recording. There's a lot of mistakes that people make that they don't even really realize they made until they go back and watch it from a recording perspective. This is why pro teams and pretty much any competitive game in existence will always have coaches or players record their point of views. The knowledge you can gain from watching stuff back is insane. Another thing I find helpful is to watch people who you feel are better at the game than you are. Try to watch them and see what they do differently than you do. Say you watch someone on YouTube or Twitch 1v3. Try and look and see what they did that you think you wouldn't have thought of yourself that made things a lot easier for them. Don't just get on the game, die, and repeat, and just hope that it magically makes you better over time. There's very limited benefit from that. And if you don't actually acknowledge the mistake and try to find a fix and actually apply that fix, there's a good chance you're going to keep making that mistake. And then once you make a mistake so many times in a row, you're going to start to develop a habit of making that mistake, and it's going to be even harder to fix it. I don't want to drag this part out too much because I think it's kind of straightforward as well. Just kind of want to stress, don't keep dying in the same way and then never fixing it. You really want to avoid making bad habits out of mistakes. Well, luckily I do think there is good ways to actually fix those. Well, that's all I have for this video. Those are 5 reasons that I myself found actually helped me improve at Apex. And I have even more than this, to be honest. So if people like this video and want another video that's similar with more reasons on how to improve, then I'll make another one. But that is all. Thanks for watching.